Good evening. I am walking the pub and it's crispy out. We got this beautiful, I don't know if it's the full moon or not, but I figured I'll make a video while I try to endure the cold and not get run over. I'm running across the street right now. And here we go. All right. I was going to go back to my studio because I'm freezing, but Miles hasn't had a big walk all day. So I figure let's see if I can get to that space when you endure something and the cold just turns to numbness and then actually you feel euphoria. One of those cool things about life that if you go past the point of uncomfortableness, you can seek a peaceful space. Now, what have I been thinking about lately? Well, I was thinking about fear, how there is actually no real reason to fear once you take that step of letting go, because when you humble yourself in the sense that of ourselves we can know nothing and do nothing, then if you live in the moment where you observe, you're always already ready to face whatever unfolds in life, which is very similar to watching a movie you haven't seen before. Now I remember why I was thinking about this stuff. So I was thinking about the Greek philosophers, and they were concerned with virtue, ethics. In fact, many thinkers have been, obviously, throughout history, but the Greeks were sort of the masters of this idea of cultivating a good soul through good habits, but also trying to determine what the good is. Aristotle has the Nicomachean Ethics, which are actually a compilation of notes from his students. So they're just coming from his lectures. And the weird thing is, it's known that Aristotle made dialogues like Plato. And if you don't know what dialogues are, it's sort of like writing out little stories where there's conversations, sort of like a script. And that's how Plato would express his philosophy. He had lectures and I think there's notes too with that. But most of his work were in Socratic dialogues where he had Socrates be the main character. And Socrates was apparently his teacher and Plato was Aristotle's teacher. So going back to Aristotle, in his model, it was a very practical form of thinking where he has this notion that there's in this world, unlike Plato who believed there were only perfect forms that were sort of transcendent or we participated in, Aristotle said there's a sort of golden mean, a Goldilocks zone for virtues that apply to people who have different strengths, talents, and abilities, and also different privileges, status in society. So considering it was over 2,000 years ago, allegedly, according to our history, very clever and insightful of Aristotle and a very useful form of thinking that's adoptable, really ahead of his time. So the famous example is how courage for one man may be foolhardiness for another man. So let's say you have a weak pipsqueak kind of guy. For him, compared to, say, a strong warrior type, what's courage for the weaker guy is, for the strong guy, his courage going into a battle and fighting to the death would be foolhardiness for a weaker guy. It doesn't make sense. So with Aristotle, he wants to ask what is the good, what is friendship, and essentially he thinks we have a nature and life has a purpose. There's a telos, meaning a goal, an end to these things, like how the potential lives inside of an acorn and then it grows into a tree. So in the acorn there is the life of the future and stuff like that. And so good would have to be in accordance with the nature of each kind of being. And obviously we're an interesting type of being that has a life, has a meaning, has awareness of its own death, things like that, sentience, but self-awareness. So what would be good for an acorn tree would be ideal soil, water, sun, even the coexistence with nature, with all of its changing weather and climate and other animals and creatures and bacteria, and so on and so on. But what's interesting is, unlike what I was saying before, when you live in the moment and you have an inner guide, these philosophers still believed you either have to unlock it ourselves, this knowledge, or come to it through using reason, making arguments, and observing and waxing philosophically about subjects. But what's interesting, what I want to say is that the thing about dialogues and talking about these things and having hypotheticals in your mind about what you're going to do in a given situation, I noticed that whenever you try to prepare, it never goes the way you think it's going to go when the time comes. And then there's a gap between you and your own true judgment, which is more instinctual. But what I believe I'm a witness to is when you finally submit to a higher power and he graces you with his light when you forgive. The passage in the Bible is forgive and you shall be forgiven. I think it's Mark something. I just find it fascinating that when I studied philosophy, I took it so seriously. Like, I need to figure out what the right thing to do is. I looked at all these different types of thinking. You have Immanuel Kant, who wants to find necessary truths, categorical imperatives about what's right or wrong, and saying, it's a necessary truth that you never lie because it hurts society. And I forget how his categorical imperative thing goes. That's one guy. And then you have the opposite, the utilitarians, who have a principle of the greatest amount of pleasure for the most amount of people. So in their thinking, if it makes sense to sacrifice somebody to save more people, it's all about mathematics and only being useful. And that gets scary because eugenicists who want to do population control for measuring the quality of life somehow, a subjective notion, I think, but they want to be able to quantify qualitative things like quality of life, and somehow they put it on a chart and design society. That's kind of what's going on today, if you think about it. Well, let's not get into that. So it's just interesting. You think that it's all on you to build the habits. Meanwhile, if you simply live in the moment, you have that faith, you won't have fear. You know that something's going to be there to guide you when the time is right. You won't be overwhelmed. You won't have doubt. You won't have fear. In the meanwhile, you're enjoying your life because you're present for everything. You're in that stillness with the higher power, with God. And if you're a parent, it's so important for you not to live in fear, because I think a lot of people, here's the thing I want to really bring home. It's that the people who study trying to be a good person and want to believe they are, have this pressure inside them. They have this ego that separates them from actual true judgment that comes from that inner guide, conscience or whatever. They care about their kids so much that they have fear. And if they're worried, and even if they're not saying it to the kids, it comes through. And that spirit of fear, what you're teaching them is the kid not to be in the moment. You don't want to show them that there's fear. You want to show them that you can deal with anything, whatever comes. And that would set them up to their natural state or fears. So think of it that way, but also think of the impact you have with your friends and your peers and your coworkers. That quiet strength, you don't even have to preach. People will feel it. So I think that's important. Even though it's freezing right now, my hands are numb and burning, kind of enjoying pain. I don't know why, but it's gotten to that point of being numb, and I've already got past the point of, and I guess trying to show that being present in the moment, even during times that are uncomfortable, you can learn to appreciate that. Not even learn, just like don't identify with it, this sort of avatar way. So the title of this video is going to be Talk About Talking, and how planning for things usually doesn't go very well. I know it's a way of being. People do it in the military, so many training, specialized things and tasks, and that's one thing. But I don't know about in life. And I know some people have that kind of brain where they want to rehearse things, and that has to do with all different kinds of experiences. But I can say my experience, when I stopped living in my head, my imagination, imagining scenarios, and who knows what the heck sends those ideas to you. They bubble up, and you can't necessarily control them when they bubble up, but I know you can observe them and be like, wait a minute, what is this thing? You don't have to follow it. So one of the greatest gifts when you see the separation between you and your thoughts. And anyway, that's my little video for tonight. And if you join me for this new moon, probably barely can hear me with all the wind, but I'm gonna post it anyway. So talking about talking, thoughts on talk. That's the name of this one. You all have a great night. All right, a couple more things I wanted to add. Number one, I forgot to tell you that even though Aristotle had made dialogues, they allegedly were burned in a big fire in Alexandria, in a library that was archiving them, but I don't really believe it. So I hope that one day they find his dialogues. They were probably too good. And number two, also, how sweet it'll be when I get back to my studio and it's all warm, and how much more I'll appreciate it. So that is the power of observing. You'll always find gratitude, lots to be learned, and it's like you remember them, sort of like what Plato says about knowledge and recollection, but it's the Holy Spirit working for you. And number two, I don't know if Aristotle said any man was good, but no man's good, and that just takes a lot of pressure off of you. And I find that the people who try to be good end up being wicked because they care so much about their ego proving that they're good, that when things don't go the way they try to control it, they end up judging and being angry, comparing themselves to others. So I don't know if Aristotle addressed that. I have to revisit his work, but have you heard the good news that no man is good? All right, now I'm really out.